Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 6th day of May 2024, and we were speaking about the appointments to the diplomatic missions that was concluded last week on Friday with the gazettement of the names of the new appointees. And now Parliament is looking into the impeachment of Mithika Linturi, who is the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture. A decision was made by the House last week to form a committee of 11 that is supposed to be considering that impeachment motion and within 10 days report back. But also there's a story on the Standard, Cabinet of Blunders, and they have highlighted the faces of Susan Nakhumicha, Health, Kipchumba Murkomen, Roads and Transport, Mithika Linturi, Agriculture, Ezekiel Machogu, Education, Moses Kuria, Public Service, and they're saying that is on page 2 of the Standard. 6 years in Ruto administration on the spot for non-performance under fire ministers. Of course, describing what the questions could be on Moses Kuria owns controversial proposal to place civil servants on contract terms. Proposal has attracted wrath of labor unions and other stakeholders. For Davis Chirchir, frequent power blackouts across the country have put him on the spot. The CS has remained tight-lipped as darkness ruled the country during such blackouts. For Kipchumba Murkomen, the leaking roof at the JKIA has attracted myriad of criticisms. Power blackouts throwing country's key airport in total darkness has turned a spotlight on him. For Nakhumicha Wafula, it's about the doctors' strike or the crisis in the health sector. And for Ezekiel Machogu is what appears facing condemnation for flip-flopping on school reopening, issued midnight statement hours to school reopening, and a lot of questions being raised there. Mheshimiwa Koech, is it fair assessment about that and the outrage that has been in regards to some of these cabinet secretaries? What do you make of it?
It's good for Kenyans to be very concerned and critical of those in the executive, just like they criticize all of us who are in parliament or any other arm of government. But this is a screaming headline with absolutely zero content. For instance, why will for Moses Kuria, the issue is owns controversial proposal to place civil servants on contract terms. What is the issue there? I find it absolutely unnecessary comment coming from this Standard Media House on the Cabinet Secretary. It is okay. It is the role of the opposition to criticize government. It is not the role of the opposition to tell President Ruto who he should have in cabinet and who he should fire. It is his entire business. We look at all these issues. There are concerns from Kenya. And I like the way Kenya nowadays has become extremely robust with criticism on those who are performing and not performing. But to be very honest, this is not fair judgment. Some of the problems that we have in this country are problems that have crossed generations, crossed years. For instance, when you talk about our Davis Chirchir, you talk about frequent power blackouts. It's a huge problem in this country. It didn't start yesterday. But that does not mean that we should be in darkness. But, the responsibility comes now that Davis Chirchir, as a minister, is in charge, and they must find ways of providing solutions. Is he providing solutions? From where I sit as a member of parliament, because I look at many documents, they are trying as much as possible. Number one, if you look at what is happening, and even what President Ruto got from Germany, is trying as much as possible to make sure that our power generation is increased and accelerated. We are going to they are going to be drilling green power in Olkaria. There's a lot of work that is being done by our geothermal to make sure that we increase our power. We rely so much on Uganda and Tanzania, and sometimes they put us off the grid. This is extremely dangerous. And I think there are issues that are being done by the Ministry of Energy to make sure that that is corrected. I don't speak for any of these ministers.
I think what the article is raising, and I'd rather we speak about the issues rather than the media house.
Okay.
The issues they are raising is that Davis Chirchir has been quite quiet. Last week there was a major blackout. I think it was on Thursday evening.
There was communication from Kenya Power.
I'm talking about the cabinet secretary.
Yeah, the cabinet secretary. But there was, there are so many things that work behind the scene. Why do Kenyans want someone who comes out and speaks? Will you rather someone who speaks a lot and does nothing, or will you rather someone who is there behind and making things happen? The people are different.
And those that
speak, I think the communication was adequate.
And those that speak end up giving very controversial statements.
Which is okay. I mean, as a country, that is our responsibility. We check them. Even in Parliament, we do the same. We do a lot of things, by the way. I don't know why. And I think Kenyans also have faith in Parliament, in the kind of accountability that we take on these cabinet secretaries. We understand where we are as a country. There is no budget for so many things. Look at infrastructure, for instance. People are making noise permanently on this road that from Nairobi all the way to Nakuru to Eldoret and all the way to Malaba.
Yep.
What can Kipchumba Murkomen do with a budget? He has a pending bill of 150 billion Kenya shilling in the infrastructure sector. And if you look at our allocation in Parliament last financial year, we only did 60 billion, which was going to sort out pending bills and still be able to cater for the works that are supposed to be done. So there is a lot of work that have to be done. We look at budget. This country was in the dogs, just trying to realign it. The President Ruto is just trying to realign it and make sure that there are so much savings that is going to happen. Do you know in this budget?
Realign what?
Realign is programs. Even now with this disaster, I can tell you for sure we will have to readjust our budgets to suit the emergencies that are happening in the country.
I want to hear from your fellow panelists, but explain to me what realignment of programs by President Ruto in the budget means.
You'll have to readjust, looking at the disaster that has happened in the country.
No. You said that he has been realigning the budget.
There are cuts. If you look at the budget of this financial year, 2024, 2025.
The coming year.
Yes, the coming financial year. You will realize that there is a cut of 350 billion Kenya shillings from all the state departments to make sure that there is saving. There's a lot of unnecessary expenditure that the president now is trying.
So what will be the total budget for the next financial year?
I'm not sure about the exact figure because we're still doing estimates. I'm just doing I'm talking about from what I saw, especially when it comes to, we shall be calling our the MDAs on 17th and 18th is when they should be.
But you know there will be cuts for 350 billion.
350 billion.
What is the source of that information?
It's a budget.
But you don't know the total.
The budget process is ongoing. So there are a lot of readjustment, but what has to be cut is
very clear in your mind that there will be 350 billion shilling worth of cuts.
That has to be, because that is what is pronounced.
So what it's being cut from what?
To make sure that we live within our means. That is exactly what he's saying. It is exactly what he said even when he was speaking to the doctors that please, the interns, that please let us have a discussion because reorganization of funds. Some places you've seen, some parastatals that are not performing are going to be folded. Okay, if a parastatal, for instance, cannot be able to generate, is permanently being fed from the treasury, it has no business.
When is that happening, and how much are we saving?
I told you, the president intends that our savings should be around 350 billion.
Parastatals are being, you're saying that they'll be folded. How much will you save?
From that, I'm not sure again on the figures. But all I'm saying is that parastatals that are not performing, parastatals that continue.
Are they known?
There are so many parastatals that are non-performing.
So what is the process of making sure that they are folded?
It's a process that will have to come to Parliament again. So
the next financial year begins on 1st of July.
Yes.
It's in less than 2 months.
Yes. What was submitted before, as before, was a BPS, which goes to now, just giving you the rough estimate. Then it comes to Parliament. We look at it, then it is sent back to Treasury. So Treasury now finds that there are places, for instance, I will tell you from my perspective, where the chairman of the Ministry of Defense has lost on ECA funding, which yearly should be able to, I shouldn't be telling you this early, but that ECA funding should have been around 39 billion. They've lost 38 billion. They're remaining with 1 billion.
What is ECA funding?
ECA funding is external funding that is used, to purchase aircraft. It's a very critical fund for the Ministry of Defense because it's extremely expensive. So they rely on external financing for most of the activities, buying missiles, buying planes, buying ammunition and many other things.
So that means the country has to find the resources, or what?
It means they've lost 38 billion from 39 billion. That is so.
Okay, make me understand. So this is financing that comes from outside the country?
Yes, but they are normally given that space in every financial year, and it is factored in the main budget with the other items. So if a budget of Ministry of Defense, for instance, was 145 billion, you will now have to minus 39 billion because it was also counted as a main budget. So you see, that's a very critical funding that they've lost. And I'm sure there's a reason for that. You know, the reason for that is because purchase of an airplane, for instance, is not a one-day thing. So it will probably take 2 financial years to finance that. So I'm sure the president is looking at the state of the economy and saying that maybe in 1 or 2 years, we will have stabilized enough to be able again to return that particular critical funding to the Ministry of Defense.
Okay.
So that realignment is exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure even many others where my colleagues probably are in their committees, they will have noticed with the estimates that there's a lot of adjustments.
All right. Honorable Kenan, talk to us about, because you see now there's a motion before Parliament to remove Mythical Interior's Cabinet Secretary. Talk to us about the process on what Parliament will be required to do and what the threshold should be in proving those charges against the CS.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Article 95 clearly shows the mandate of a member of parliament, in particular the members of the National Assembly. And Article 152 also provides the procedure for the impeachment of a CS. I think the first step is pursuant to Article 152, as read, 152 actually, Section 6, as read with Standing Order 66. Any member of parliament, any member of the National Assembly, who is convinced that a CS has committed a national or international crime, or has engaged in gross misconduct, or has committed crime, or has engaged in violation of the Constitution, with the support of a quota of members of parliament, can initiate that process. A quota of members of parliament, a quota of members of the National Assembly. So you can compete, a quota of 349, so you can compete. Once that is done, again, the same is subjected to the Speaker, sent to the Speaker. If the Speaker is satisfied, pursuant to Standing Order 61, the Speaker approves. Okay? Then the same goes to the House. If it is supported by, again, a third of the members. A third of the members is, again, the first stage is a quota. The second stage is a third. That is, I think, about 117 members. With approval, again, the next stage is Parliament selects a select committee of 11 members. Once that is done, the select committee looks at the allegations. They have 10 days from the date of approval.
Of appointment.
If they are satisfied that the allegations are substantiated through public hearing, and the minister has to be accorded an opportunity actually to say what he has to say on the allegations. If the members of the committee are satisfied that the allegations have been substantiated, they prepare a report to the House, debated. If it's approved again by a majority, the minister, the Speaker, communicates the decision of the majority of members of the National Assembly to the President, and then the President acts. If, on the other hand, at that stage, the 11-member committee finds that the allegations are unsubstantiated, the issue dies there. Yeah. It ends there. So the process is very clear. It's time-bound. It's explicit. And therefore, the CS is given an opportunity, okay, to clarify. The members of parliament have an opportunity. The members of the public have also an opportunity. And eventually, what prevails is the truth, pursuant to that well-structured, well-defined legal process.
So is this a process of facts or is it a political process?
Well, it depends. You see, first of all, you're talking about the decision of the elected representative of the people of Kenya. The first stage is a quota of the members of the National Assembly must have been persuaded that this CS has engaged in gross misconduct, this CS has engaged in violation of the Constitution, this CS has committed either national or international crime. So those members are not foolish. You know, they must go through, they must be persuaded, there must be allegations, there must be facts. Once, and that's why it's stratified. You know, stage one, a quota of members of parliament.
Right.
Stage two, a third of members of parliament. Stage three, a committee. Stage four, if they are substantiated, the majority of members of parliament, and majority meaning of three, I believe it's a majority meaning more than half. So it's a process that gives an opportunity to the person who is accused. It's also a process that gives an opportunity to those who feel that this person has committed a crime. So it's a fair process.
Right.
And that's why I think the framers of the Constitution, unlike in the past, have decided to put all these stages in the impeachment, you know, of not only a CS, but even a governors.
Right.
So that it's the right of members of parliament to oversight. It's also the right of the CSs and the appointed authority to do their work.
Okay. All right. Mheshimiwa Elachi, so regardless of how the process ends in terms of the outcome, what does it say about the person facing the impeachment, but also your comments about the story about the cabinet secretaries that are on the spot for what they may have said or failed to say?
Well, first let's start with those who, I think what Kenyans are feeling is that, you know, Kenyans were used to, you find a cabinet secretary is able to say this and it is done. The challenge the cabinet secretaries are facing here, these five. Well, I am removing Moses Kuria because Moses Kuria, to say that civil servants are supposed to be on contract. He was proposing, he cannot pass it, isn't it? It's an issue here. This one is an issue, unless we want to make it an issue. But then, let me say this. Having worked in public service, I will agree with Moses Kuria on two things. If you are a most senior-most public servant, you can go on contract. There's nothing wrong with that. The senior-most, because they have groups, and it is workable and it is okay. Because also in civil service is where we have a challenge where you tell someone, I have been here for 30 years. Then why are we having problems? It's like what I'm seeing at the county, you know. I'm looking at the county and I'm like, somebody has worked there in this docket of planning for 35 years. And we have so many challenges. It means you are part of the problem. So how do we deal with you? It's only when you come in, how Moses is saying. So with Moses, I have no issue. It is how we look at it. For me, how I look at it, the senior-most can come on contract of 10 years. I don't think there's a problem because by the time they're leaving, they will already have reached their retirement. So we are just, and then...
So senior-most, you're talking about directors going up or what?
Not leave even directors. No, we go beyond directors because we have directors and we have other senior positions that take care of everything. What we should be saying, instead of saying, what Moses should add in is that who are you mentoring? Because when you remember one time I said here, when I was leaving, we had like 38 senior officers going on retirement, but we didn't have any person we can say will come in who has gotten the experience that this person has. So we are very poor in mentorship in terms of bringing the young people now to join into civil service so that they take over the way these people took over those days. That's the challenge we face. I mean, I don't want to talk about the issue of doctors. There's need of us now to agree that we must. I saw they did a whole night they disagreed again. So you see, it's a matter of how do you normally, I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm not. And I will not want to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
But there's a way you must have to manage a process. I think that is what is biting my sister, just managing that process.
Your sister here to mean?
My sister Nakhumicha.
Okay.
Yes, I mean my sister as a woman, you know, because she's the only one here. And we are hitting on her, yes. But it's a matter of many stakeholders. She's caught up into a situation where here you have your boss who has talked with them. Then you have governors who you must negotiate with them to agree with the process you want. So it's a process where you have quite a number of people to sit with first to agree before even you face the same doctors. You know, that when we are going for this is our bargaining in terms of government. And I don't know, even when she's here, is it because of the interns? If it is because of the interns, then you need, I have not seen SRC among all these negotiations. Yet they are the ones who brought in the problem. They are the ones who said, not really the problem. They advised and said, this is how we would want to see.
Based on a request.
Doesn't matter. Yes, that is why the Constitution gave them the powers. Based on the request to understand. Because at that time you are saying, you want to get the right way. Because it doesn't matter whether there will be the doctors, there will be the engineers. We have interns in all these sectors. The moment, whatever you agree here, as much as I know we must agree that the doctors and the interns are doing more than any other of the sector, then you have to look at how does it replicate to the rest.
So in short, what you're saying is that the doctor strike is not necessarily the problem of the CS Nakhumicha?
No. I'm saying it is a problem of two sectors, the county governments and Nakhumicha. Nakhumicha comes in because of the interns. The other doctors are doctors employed by the county government, unless now, if you're talking about Kenyatta, who are also there. So, and that's why I'm saying it's a framework you must frame properly.
All right.
Because in the end of the day, you will not be paying salaries to the 80%. Maybe your salary is for only 20%. But then now, when we come now to my CS Lunturi, CS Lunturi, and I don't want to explain, the process has been explained very well. The only challenge we have is as Parliament, when we decided this report, when it comes, when a committee has said it cannot go beyond, that was not right in our standing orders. It is the House to decide, because the House started by saying, with 117 people, you are taken through a process. So you can't come and tell me 11 people now will decide a decision of that House. I'm not saying it is, because it's in the process, we will follow the process. Yeah. But we have to think about it.
The Constitution, actually.
We have to think about it. Whether it's Constitution, whether it's whatever. No, this is standing orders. It's our standing orders that are bringing in the 11 committee members.
152.10.
It's the Constitution.
It is in the Constitution.
Well,
Karon Mheshimiwa, we'll get to that.
Whether in the Constitution, it is wrong. In fact, the impeachment of Senate is very credible then, because it's very clear that it is the House that decides whether a governor is going. And so I don't know how we made sure this does not work. It means that there's no need of impeaching a CS then. What's the purpose? Then take him to the public gallery instead of wasting members' times, and then we come and find ourselves in this. If we did that in the Constitution. But anyway.
Okay, I'm reading 152.10. If a resolution under clause 9b requiring the president to dismiss a cabinet secretary is supported by a majority of the members of the National Assembly.
Sorry, read 9.
I read 9.
Read 9 and, sorry, 152.9, yeah.
That's fine. If the select committee reports that it finds the allegations unsubstantiated, no further proceedings shall be taken. You have a problem with that?
Yes.
As in the Constitution.
But I thought it is the role of the select committee to really interrogate the issues. If they find something, or if they find grounds, they advise the House.
I'm just saying, when you look at an impeachment process, That is where we went wrong. Because it doesn't matter how we look at it.
Or are you suggesting that the entire House should be the one that is
Yes.
considering the motion?
Yes. It should be the
I know
entire
what
House.
Honorable Elachi is saying, because
Yeah.
in the Senate it's different. So
For impeachment of governors, yes.
for impeachment of governors.
Because it's a political
You
process.
should also be given a decision to first of all to decide on the 11th member.
Yeah.
And in an event we disagree
So-
on the 11th member,
Yeah.
then we can have the plenary, make that decision.
To make that decision.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the constitution. We will follow the constitution. But having said that, what my CS should know is that the biggest challenge of any person when you are in this position, you see, when I look at his, when you look at the whole thing, it goes more on moral, by the way. Moral, emotions. Because when you take it in facts, the way they are saying take it in facts, definitely the committee will find it very difficult to find it in facts. Because you'll be saying there was a procurement officer, I don't know that the DPP has done this. So you get in facts, you will lose the whole thing. But in terms of moral and emotions, this is now where we call it a place where emotions are very high, because farmers are wondering, what next to me?
Okay.
Where do I get my resources? But then lastly, this is what he has to always remember as he wakes up in the morning. The moment it came into Parliament, the moment it arrived to where it has arrived, all your ambassadors, where they are right now, they will find it very difficult to work with you. It's good to tell him that. And maybe they've already communicated to the head of state. And that's how sad it is. And so it's not something...
Regardless of the decision
regardless of what we are going to do, that is where we arrived with our CS. That the ambassadors will feel a bit hesitant on a person who has... Because if it is in their country, they will have already resigned. You won't even get... The moment it came on the media, fake fertilizer. If it is in Europe, you would have resigned. So they take it very seriously than we are taking things. And that is one thing that we should be asking ourselves, so what next?
All right, Honorable Coach, I did hear you talk about the process of impeachment and the implications that it would have. What's your take?
Which, what exactly are you?
The impeachment motion that is before the House,
Yeah.
and Honorable Elachi says that it might be difficult to find the facts, but the significance of the move should not be lost. And I don't know what the appointing authority or the appointee himself is supposed to do with that information.
It's true. First of all, I don't believe in mob lynching. So I really want to give due process and opportunity. I mean, there is a parliamentary committee on agriculture is on this issue. The investigative agencies are already on top of things to ascertain the truth and who is culpable and who is not. So I wouldn't want to cast aspersions. I mean, that process of impeachment was very procedural. It came to Parliament. And again, we have this 11th committee that is going to look. Honorable Linturi will be given an opportunity to be heard. And the public also will make their input. And that is extremely important. It's a very good process. It's how as a country we've been subjected to accountability, and it's perfectly okay.
Right.
What I will not want to be part of is mob lynching. Many people have come out, and you see stories. In fact, last Friday, yes, even credible media houses ran a story of P.S. Rona has been arrested and is already in DCI. Actually, another media house, before they deleted, of course not Citizen, went again further and said...
you need to say that, of course?
Not Citizen.
Okay, carry on.
Another media house said, Honorable Linturi is already in the DCI and recording a statement and will be arraigned in court soon. All sensational stories that mean nothing. And the President, William Ruto, the president that I know, does not work like that. It's not a knee-jerk reactionist. It takes time to understand what is happening, gives time to due process, and Linturi should be accorded that opportunity for due process. Having said that, however, it is important also that we ascertain the truth of what could be happening, because fertilizer is a very key ingredient. First of all, food security is a huge, huge pillar of our manifesto in Kenya Kwanza. It cannot fail, and it should not fail. And we will help the president make sure that it succeeds. There are many people who do not want this program to succeed. There are many people, and I really wish we had some of our colleagues who have sat here before and criticized the program of President Duterte on subsidizing on production rather than consumption. Because where we are today, the food, and I saw an analysis by TIFA, the posters last week, that Kenyans nowadays do not even they don't complain about food, they don't complain about fuel, but no one is talking about it. It is perfectly okay. Last time, in fact, you put me on the spot yourself when the prices of unga were above 140. Today, you are not talking about it because it's come down. It's never news anymore.
Surely.
So the president,
we are talking about
yes, because I'm talking about Linturi. Food security is an extremely important.
You cannot accuse
the measures that the president.
There are different topics for different issues.
It's not in today's menu.
I don't think that is.
The president has made sure that our food security is become a story of the past, and with the rains, I'm sure this will happen. But then we must also be accountable as a people. Those people who have been charged with the responsibility of making sure that our fertilizer is perfect and okay must be responsible. Where there are issues of people having gotten tenders here and there to supply fertilizer, someone supplying soil, I don't know, someone supplying what?
Soil conditioner.
Responsibility, they must take responsibility. In fact, actually, do you know we have a summit on that is, I hope you will ask me about the recent runs by Prime Minister Raila Odinga, because we have a summit that is being financed by the AU that is starting tomorrow on soil and fertilizer in Kenya. That is going to talk about
fertilizer.
Yes,
we are in problems.
Soil and fertilizer.
Uganda will hit us
in Kenya. It's something that it's being discussed to make sure that as Africa, we are able to be food secure.
The timing.
This is the responsibility of the AU chairman. And when I see Raila Odinga, and he's given that space to rant whatever he wants to. But I think right now he needs to know that he's pitching for an extremely serious office that needs him to have some kind of demeanor, and even in his own
Honorable question.
But he has demeanor. What do you mean demeanor, chairman?
Honorable
question. No, you cannot be in.
Honorable,
what was the problem?
You're just setting questions.
I know.
Going ahead to answer them. Then you accuse me that I did not ask. Even that question about Unga, I never asked you that question. You raised it yourself.
And by the way,
when the prices of Unga were 140, and we were trying
It's not long ago. It's
when we were trying.
Just of 1 month ago. You're the one who raised it.
I was in this show with Honorable Kainan when we talked about, and Honorable, the Member of Parliament from Nyanda, when we were talking about the high cost of Unga at that time. And you told me, where did you get the price of 130? I think they were trying to calm down that time. And I remember you were very, very, actually...
I asked you, and you didn't answer because I asked you for the specific...
Because I didn't have correct answers. Now I have the correct answer.
That's what you should have said. But I asked you a question which you didn't have an answer for. Sorry, Welachi, I want us to take a look at the feedback that's come to us on Citizen TV.
That's not a good topic. Don't bring that topic here right now.
Is daybreak. Still not very comfortable discussing about whether Raila Odinga should be on the show or not. So, Engineer Lazaro, you're saying that agriculture docket is the backbone of our economy. This docket needs a technocrat with the management skills, not political appointees. Linturi should just pave the way and let the nation move on. Sir Nixon Dogire, maybe it's time to try and appoint CSs with credentials relevant to the oppositions. They should at least have a degree that's peripherally applicable to the appointed position or have very strong relevant education, expertise, and experience. Sawe, the current administration has diminished standard and lost public confidence in significant appointments from cabinet secretaries to ambassadors. There is a lack of competence. Let's prioritize technocrats over political appointees for the country's betterment. That's what Sawe